Mr. Speaker, the Citizenship Act of 2000, Act 591, provides for evidence of citizenship. And so it says that the minister may, on an application made by or on behalf of any person with respect to whose citizenship of Ghana a doubt exists under Part 1 of this Act, certify that the person is a citizen of Ghana. Just to make a point that you cannot make Ghana card the only mechanism for establishing citizenship, because this parliament has another law which makes provision for a mechanism for establishing citizenship.
Right, Speaker, my first question is directed at the Electoral Commissioner. I want to find out from the Electoral Commissioner why she thinks that this Honourable House should allow for this CI to be passed on mere assurance, knowing that she wanted us to do this in July last year. Imagine if we had come along. See where we are today. 8 months down the lane, we still do not have the NIA ready. Imagine if we came along in July last year. And if she should be minded, the last time a Minister of State decided to use NIA and rely on deadlines and all of that, the Communications Minister, her hands were bent. She kept extending deadlines and she even abandoned it. She no longer extended the deadline again, and she's abandoned the SIM card registration deadline. And I thought you'll have learned from the experience of the Communication Minister. You are following on that blind alley. So that's the first question. The second question to the Finance Minister. Honorable Finance Minister, we want to see a warrant. We want to see evidence that you have released funds. Because your record in this house, you told us you won't go to IMF. You told us you use public funds for the National Cathedral. You did. You told us that individual bondholders will be paid by 21st February. You failed. So your record in this house is not good. We will not take your word. We won't take your assurance for it. We want to see evidence. Warrant. Evidence of payment. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the NIA.
Your time is up.
NIA. Finally.
No, finally.
We want a breakdown of the figure. The 60 million, district by district.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, we have been told by this House and the EC that Regulation 2111/2012, as quoted by my learned brother Honorable Ayariga, 2012, Regulation 2111 is 2012.
No, the year is 2011, not 2012.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, we have been told that Regulation 2111 makes mandatory use of the card. But this is what the law says. It says that a national identity card issued. That is the controlling phrase. That a person must be issued with the card before he or she could be demanded to use it mandatorily. So the interpretation they are placing on this provision is misleading. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Speaker, if I am not issued with the card, no entity can expect me to make mandatory use of it. That is what the law is saying. Sure. Number two, the proposed instrument says that other than the EC office, which is the registered office of the Electoral Commission in the district, no existing polling station will be designated a registration center. When the existing CI 91 makes clear provision in Regulation 2, Sub-Regulation 4, that all existing polling stations be made designated registration centers, because the law requires that registration centers ought to be gazetted 4 clear weeks before registration commences. The tenor of the new provision will tell us, we will not know the number of polling stations that will be converted as registration centers to be known to the key players. So we want them to answer that. Mr. Speaker, Regulation Clause 33 of the proposed CI I have said it. Others doubt it. That is the saving provision. It may be saving, but under that clause, the EC can decide to compile a new voters register tomorrow based on the bastardization of the voters register they have now. They claim that it has been abused as a result of the guarantor system. So if the CIA is passed today and she proceeds to compile a voters register tomorrow, it is Parliament that will be blamed for that. Mr. Speaker, this
Honourable Member, your time is up.
Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, my question goes to the NIA. I can't see the Speaker. I can't see the NIA. Okay. Mr. Speaker, NIA, Electoral Commission is relying on your Ghana card to use it as a sole ID for the continual registration. Now there is CI 91. There is a guarantor system already in CI 91. NIA, you also have a guarantor system. I would like to know from the Executive Secretary of NIA, what's the difference between your guarantor system and the NIA and that of the ECCI 91? And question number 2, who administered the oath, if there is any, on NIA and Electoral Commission? How is your guarantor system also work? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just heard the Chief Executive Officer of the NIA interpret Regulation 7, Sub-Regulation E of LI 211.
Honorable Dafiamako, I have not given you the opportunity. The interpretation,
Mr. Speaker,
that is your understanding,
Mr. Speaker,
and that is his understanding.
So I want to ask him a question. And the question is this: that if you interpret the law the way you have done, then over 2 million cards that you have not given to Ghanaians, can you expect those people the mandatory use of the card that you have not issued to them? Or you have not issued the card to the people? Can it be expected that the 2.something million people, there will be a mandatory requirement for them to use the card as you have interpreted in the law? So the law says issue cards. Issued. That is where the emphasis is. So stop misreading the law. Stop that.
Eric Opoku, you can begin.
Thank you very much.
But just be straightforward, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the constitutional instrument being discussed comes under Article 42. And Article 42 is very clear. It states, every citizen of Ghana of 18 years of age or above and of sound mind has the right to vote and is entitled to be registered as a voter for the purposes of public elections and referenda. Mr. Speaker, from the presentations we have listened to this evening, it is clear that if the constitutional instrument is passed today, it will be an offense to this particular article because not all Ghanaians have the Ghana card. And that is the reason why you have brought the finance minister here to come and give us the assurance, inviting this house to pass a law on assurance that the right thing will be done in future. Why is it that we cannot wait until the gap is closed by NIA before the constitutional instrument is passed? That is the first question. Why? Then my second question has to do with the guarantor system. In your response to a question posed by Honorable Ayaga, you indicated that the NIA guarantor system is a robust one. Why can't the Electoral Commission deploy the same robust or even super robust one as an alternative route for those who do not have the Ghana card to also have their names on the electoral roll, so that we can bring this matter to the end? And then the last question,
has to do with limiting registration to the district offices. Mr. Chairman, that is a right. Voting is a right that must be exercised by every eligible Ghanaian. And so if you limit registration to the district office and the person is in the village far away from that particular office, who bears the cost of traveling from that village to that office to be able to exercise that constitutional duty? So now, if you don't have money to travel to the district office, you cannot register and participate in the voting. Is that what you're telling us? Are you monetizing the registration process?
Honorable Emmanuel Boa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the session about the NIA's, the failure of the NIA's deadlines, where we're talking about the reliance by the Minister of Communication, this is what the EC said, that about the NIA, she cited the continuous registration and said that if you do not get it in March, you can get it at a later date. But that is exactly the fear. That's exactly the worry. I mean, what prevents the Electoral Commission? Today we know that the EC, sitting here today, has told her that they still have challenges. The Minister of Finance is here. The NIA owes $170 million. The amount they've paid is $9 million. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So, knowing all this problem, what is really driving us? Why don't we stick with the status quo? We get the NIA to complete the process before we deal with it. What prevents the EC from doing that? Secondly, the National Identification Authority is more robust. This is the EC boss saying this. He says that the NIA system is more robust when we were talking about the guarantor system. Because those who use the guarantor system, they swear an oath. So if that is robust and effective, what prevents the EC from adopting that system? The same guarantor system. If that works, and it's not the same question. And then on the third one, on the district capital, there's other consequential dangerous processes involved in that. The registration at the district office will, the district officers will also assign polling stations. You know our population. You know the number of, excuse my language, but people who are not very educated. They come to the district office on a day of voting. How do they even identify where their polling stations will be? And then the danger of gerrymandering. We are now going to leave the district, the EC officers at the district office to deal with polling station, people who go there to register. Have you thought about the danger that involves? They decide, okay, if they have preferences at the district offices, they can decide that you are registering, I'll put you in this district, I'll put you in this favoring areas that really will create confusion for our democracy. Have you thought about the dangers of gerrymandering in this exercise, living at a polling station? The issue of the economic and logistical difficulties of ordinary Ghanaians.
Emmanuel, your time is up.
Have you thought about gerrymandering, how you can maneuver to make sure that people are skewed to areas that
Emmanuel, your time is up.
Electoral officers?
Mr. Speaker, when the Electoral Commissioner was speaking, he was proud to have stated that the Electoral Commission has a proven track record. I believe that this proven track record was because of the performance of her predecessors. If you observe very clearly, on election matters, consensus building is key, because that is what prevents conflicts. Cote d'Ivoire is just by us here. By virtue of the fact that laws were passed to create the impression that others were not citizens, created problem in Cote d'Ivoire. Afarijan handed over to Charlotte. Charlotte gave it to you. This country was in one piece. This country was in one piece. If
this country goes to war because of this, it will be on your head. It will be on your head. You went for electoral commission. This country goes on. I'm a science student. When you go into the laboratory, before you perform the experiment, you state the precautions. All I was doing was just stating the precautions that the electoral commission must take to ensure that we don't go the path of Côte d'Ivoire. That's what I was doing.
Go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I will continue by indicating that there's an example that the EC can learn from. You recall in 2006 when the People's ROPA was passed. You recall that because of the protestation on the streets of Ghana, even though it became law and even the president assented to it, the Electoral Commission was cautious in implementing it because they knew that they needed the full cooperation of all the key players to be able to implement it. My appeal again to the Electoral Commissioner is that know that we want this country in one piece. That's all I can say. It's not a question
to Honorable Isaac Adongo.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister has given us assurances, but we've gone past assurances now. The biggest problem in the room is the NIA. Go and fix NIA as a condition precedent to any conversation on CR. It's as simple as that. But I want to refer the Electoral Commissioner to her own CR 91. Particularly page 24, there's a schedule from 1 that she uses for guarantors. And inbuilt in that is the oath system that she describes with the NIA as the robust. I'm surprised that she's not even taking care to look at her own document. And I want to read the oath under it. Mr. Speaker, he says, I solemnly swear or affirm that I know Mr., Mrs., and Mrs. is qualified to register as a voter at the above named registration center. I solemnly swear or affirm that I know that person is qualified to register as a voter at the above named registration center, and should it come to be false, I will bear the consequences.
Thank you.
This is an oath. And for you, the EC to be now praising somebody else using the same method as a means of getting another thing done for you is unbelievable. Please take your time and read your CI before you mess us up. Mr. Speaker, I am surprised that the NIA has been telling us the number of people unregistered from age 15 and above. But the issue we are dealing with is 18 and above. Why have you up to this point not told us how many 18 and above you are supposed to register? And how many are outstanding? But you are busy telling us 15 years, 16 years, and 17. Mr. Speaker, I also remember that the EC board said that if one ineligible voter enters the register, that is bad enough. I want to remind all of us that even Jesus Christ, when he was selecting his disciples, Judas Iscariot still slipped through. And that it is not possible under the sun, not even the United States of America would develop 100% free proof register. Please work with what you have. We spent 1 billion already. We are not ready under this mess and the difficulties that we have to spend another penny to put up a new register. Please spare us and deal with the problems that we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, is the that limiting Ghanaians to the
national ID card for registration as a voter, coupled with limiting Ghanaians to go to the district capital to register, will lead, the combined effect of these two will lead to people being disenfranchised under Article 42 of the Constitution because of the long distances of some people living 30 to 50 kilometers away from the district capital and not having access easily to the ID card. Won't that amount to disenfranchising a lot of Ghanaians? That's number one. Number two, Mr. Speaker, since the opposition to this ID, the registration system, is very populous and overwhelming, coupled with the discontent, the frustration, and the suffering in the country. Won't the EC give a listening ear to those huge Ghanaians, population of Ghanaians who are complaining, and do the needful by making sure that the guarantor system coexists with the card system so that there will be peace and harmony in the country? Thank you.
So we don't trust what we are saying. Put this in the law. After that, tomorrow you tell us that a group of people will not be registered. Put it in the law. We don't trust what we are saying. Put it on paper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first, it is surprising to note that the Electoral Commission and the National Identification Authority and the Ministry of Finance, they are calling on us to accept assurances from them and to, based on those assurances, pass a constitutional instrument. Mr. Speaker, we can't accept that. They have said in their own submissions that there's a long way from now to the next election. We contend that first they should go and solve the problems they are aware of first, and then they will bring the CI for us to consider. But until that time, we can't take assurances and use those assurances and make a law. No way. We can't do that. Mr. Speaker, I say this because there are two documents before us. First, the EC herself, in her statement to Parliament, page 10, paragraph 4 of page 10, Mr. Speaker, I read. She says, also, we call on the National Identification Authority to accelerate the pace of the printing of the Ghana card to make it easy for anyone who is interested in registering with us to do so. Mr. Speaker, that is an admission, page 10 in the EC's document. That is an admission of the fact that the National Identification Authority will need to do some work before it will be possible for an ordinary Ghanaian of voting age be able to register.
Your colleague is up. Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, we have a document that's been given to us by the Electoral Commission. Now, the material parts that my colleague is quoting from, they have cancelled it out. Mr. Speaker, that is it. Mr. Speaker, she did not read it. Mr. Speaker, it is quite unfortunate. It is quite unfortunate that somebody presents a document to you, a material part, it says, I shouldn't have submitted that to you. Ordinarily, Mr. Speaker, if they were going to submit this paper to us later on, they would have edited that portion out of it. So it is incredulous. It is incredulous for the minority leader to get up and quote a statement that has been cleared from the document. This is most unfortunate. It's most unfortunate of a minority leader
to accelerate the pace of the printing of Ghana cards to make it easy for anyone who is interested in registering with us to do so. So, Speaker, that is a fact. So, Speaker, secondly, there is a document before us, the report of the Special Budget Committee of the briefing session of the draft Public Elections Regulations 2022 and other related matters. So, Speaker, in that document, that was signed by the majority leader himself, the Honorable Osei Chairman Sabusu. So, Speaker, I refer you to page 11. But the Speaker, to start with, let me refer you to before page 11 to the conclusions of the statement. Page 11. The Speaker, he says, however, the committee would like to stress that it is not accepted. It will not accept and would reject any effort that is geared towards making the EC use the Ghana card as the only medium to qualify a person who is eligible to vote in 2024 election. It goes on to say that this is premised on the fact that indeed Ghana has come of age and can boast of a credible national identification card to transact business with. However, even in the face of a number of identification options given in the past, and even in the operations of the National Identification Authority, some citizens are unable to register for the national card due to the existence of serious challenges the authority is confronted with. It is clear that unless and until the challenges confronting the issuance of the Ghana card are dealt with, using the Ghana card as the only medium of voter registration would negatively impact on the electoral roll and thereby deny some otherwise qualified persons from registering to vote. Mr. Speaker, this is a statement signed by the majority leader himself. This is signed by the majority leader himself. It is not coming from us. This is the report of the committee of a special budget that has been adopted by us. The Speaker, we cannot take assurances as the basis for us to have a Ghana card. We still have time. Let them go and solve the issues relating to the issuance of the Ghana card first. Until then, Mr. Speaker, we are sorry to say that we cannot be part of that. We cannot be part of that. Mr. Speaker, secondly, we are aware that the Ministry of Finance and the government owes the service provider $117 million. $117 million. Aside that, the National Identification Authority themselves have said here today that they have financial challenges. The government, the Minister of Finance, in his statement said they will release money at the appropriate time. We don't know when the appropriate time will be. So, Speaker, as we speak today, government is unable to pay for salaries. In fact, if you check Bank of Ghana Commercial Bank Twitter page today, now, you can check now. They said they are unable to pay salaries. So if you are unable to pay salaries, how can we take assurances that you are ready to pay $117 million? So, Speaker, I can read it. I'll be here. So what is the basis? You can't pay salaries. And if you can't pay salaries, how can we take that assurances as basis for you to make a law? Go and pay first. Let's make sure that the ordinary Ghanaian, at the minimum, can get access to the Ghana card. So, Speaker, another important point. So, Speaker, if you look at Article 42, Article 42 requires evidence of citizenship, and not evidence of identification. Evidence of citizenship can be that my parent, I was born Ghanaian by birth. I did not have to choose to be a Ghanaian. My parent gave birth to me as Ghanaian. And so my parent must have the right to vouch for me that I'm a Ghanaian. Must have the right to vouch for me as a Ghanaian.
and not only using national identification card. Mr. Speaker, passport can be another identification for identifying me as a Ghanaian. And so it is wrong for the National Electoral Commission to say that they are using only the Ghana card. Mr. Speaker, our position is simple. To start with, they cannot use only the Ghana card as the basis of registration. They cannot. And if they will have to use the Ghana card as the basis of registration, we demand an independent verification of the numbers that the National Identification Authority has put out there. Independent verification. Because, Mr. Speaker, we can't vouch for these numbers. We need to go to our constituencies to find out whether the numbers they are giving to us are adequate or not, for us to reconcile those data. And it is only right for us to request for an independent validation, so that an independent body will say that yes, Ghana has reached the time that we can use Ghana card as the sole identification for registration to vote. Until that time, Mr. Speaker, we beg to say that we will not accept this. We will stand firm, we will oppose it, and we will carry it through. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Has agreed to the fact that they owe the National Identification Authority, the service provider of the National Identification Authority, $117 million. If you express it at 13 cities, even 14 cities, 1.4 billion Ghana cedis. At 12 cities, 1.4 billion cedis. However, as we speak, he has confirmed that he's paid 80 million. Okay, granted 100 million. So if you've paid 100 million out of 1.4 billion, we still have an outstanding of 1.3 billion cedis. 1.3 billion cedis. The assurances that the minister has given to me is not good enough. Mr. Speaker, for me to be convinced and support the passage of a CI that seeks to make the national identification card as the sole identification for registration. And my position is simple. Until that is done, and all of us can bear their testimony, and there's evidence, and an independent validation has been done, we cannot be able to support that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.